Beast Quest, Sepron, Chapter 1. Tom brought Storm to a halt at the foot of a rocky slope. He and Eleanor slid to the ground so that the horse could rest. Silver the wolf flopped down beside them, his tongue lolling out as he panted. The hill where Tom had met and battled Furno the fire dragon was far behind them. Now he and Eleanor were heading west on the next stage of their beast quest. Tom's heart began thumping again as he remembered how he had freed Furno from the curse of Melville the Dark Wizard. The dragon had burnt crops all over Avantia and blocked the river, making the land dry and barren. When Tom had unlocked the magic collar that imprisoned him, the dragon was released from the spell. As he flew away, he had dislodged the stones damming the river, and a foaming torrent had gushed down the hillside. "I'll never forget how Furno broke the rocks with his tail," said Eleanor, as if she guessed what Tom was thinking. "Or how you leapt up on his wing. That was really brave. It wouldn't have worked if you hadn't shot that arrow up to me. With a key tied to it," Tom replied, feeling embarrassed by Eleanor's praise. "I'd never have not unlocked the collar without that." "What you did was still the bravest thing I have ever seen," Eleanor insisted. "We both freed Furno," said Tom, "and now Avantia has water again." "Yes, and no more burnt crops," Eleanor agreed. Silver leapt up again with an impatient yelp. Eleanor turned to Tom, a determined look in her eyes. "We'd better push on," she said. Tom could still hear the words of Wizard Adira ringing in his ears. Freeing Furno the fire dragon was only the first of his tasks. Melville's curse had turned the good beasts of Avantia into evil monsters that were destroying the kingdom. It was Tom's quest to free all the beasts and save his people. Tom wasn't sure he could succeed. There was so much he had to do and so many beasts to conquer, but he meant to try with all the strength and courage that he had. This was the adventure Tom had been waiting for all his life, and even though his father, Taladon the Swift, had disappeared when Tom was a baby, he was determined to make him proud. "Let's have another look at the map," he said. He pulled out the scroll that Wizard Adira had given him. On it, a path glowed green, winding through hills and woodland until it reached the sea in the west. As Tom looked at the map, a tiny head reared out of the waves drawn on the paper, just beside a spike of rock that looked like an island. A jagged tail slapped down, sending spray high into the air. Tom started as a drop splashed onto his hand. "There's Sepron," said Eleanor. Her voice was filled with awe. "I still can't believe it," said Tom. "A sea serpent." "It's angry." Eleanor's eyes were wide, as if she had just realized the huge mission facing them. "How do you think it's destroying Avantia?" "I don't know," said Tom. "But whatever it's doing, we are going to stop it. That is our quest." Silver let out another loud yelp. He grabbed the corner of Eleanor's cloak in his teeth and tugged gently. At the foot of the slope, Storm scraped one hoof impatiently on the stones. Tom laughed. "All right, I know. It's time to go." He checked the map one last time and stowed it away in his pocket. Before he scrambled back onto Storm, he made sure that the shield Wizard Adira had given him was firmly strapped to his back. It had been scorched by Furno, but one of the dragon's reddish-black scales shone in its slot on the shield's surface. Was it true, Tom wondered, that the shield could now protect him from fire? He swung himself into the saddle. Eleanor sprang up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. Tom patted Storm's glossy black neck. "On to the west," he cried. At first, the path zigzagged up the slope and then through a belt of trees. By the time the sun went down, they had reached a pass that curved through a range of low hills. Tom stopped beside a pool and slid to the ground. This would be a good place to make a camp. Eleanor helped him to unsaddle Storm so the horse could drink from the pool. Silver stood beside him, lapping thirstily. Tom scooped a handful of cool water into his mouth and then started to collect sticks for a fire. I'm starving, said Eleanor. I'll see if there are any nuts or berries on these bushes. While she was searching, Storm cropped the grass beside the path. We have nothing for Silver to eat, said Tom. He'll find something for himself, said Eleanor. Go on, boy. She patted the wolf and shooed him away. Silver waved his tail and vanished among the rocks. He returned before Tom and Eleanor had finished eating, and they all settled down for the night. Tom looked up at the stars, thinking about Sepron. He hoped that they could reach the coast soon, before the sea serpent had the chance to harm the kingdom any more. They set off again early the next morning and soon reached the edge of the hills. A long, smooth slope was in front of them. Far ahead, Tom could make out the distant glimmer of the sea and a tiny, rocky island. We're almost there, Eleanor said. A flash of light on the water caught Tom's eye and he gasped. What's the matter? Asked Eleanor. I'm not sure, but I think I just saw Sepron. He felt Eleanor's grip on him tighten. Where? Over there. Near that island, Tom pointed. But he's gone now. He dug his heels into Storm's side to urge him on, and soon the path levelled, and they rode through the farmland. Everything seemed deserted. Great patches of ground were covered in burnt stubble. Look, Eleanor cried. Verno has been here. And she pointed to blackened timbers from what had been a farmhouse. A shiver ran through Tom, even though he knew that the dragon was now free from Melville's spell, and he would never blast the land with fire again. He urged Storm to a faster trot, eager to keep moving. Silver bounded a few paces ahead. Suddenly, Storm reared. His forelegs pawed the air. Eleanor squealed in alarm and gripped Tom to stop herself before sliding off. Storm, steady, Tom yelled. When the horse's forelegs fell to the ground, he began skittering to one side. Tom tugged on the reins but couldn't get him under control. Then he noticed that Silver was standing still, his legs stiff and the bushy grey fur on his shoulders bristling. He began whining uneasily. Something's wrong, said Eleanor. Silver always knows. Tom glanced back at Eleanor, noticing the alarm in her eyes. He looked around but saw nothing, just empty fields. There was no sign of danger, but Silver was still whimpering and Storm was tossing his head, his eyes rolling in panic. Beads of sweat had broken out on his black coat. What is it, boy? Tom was still struggling to keep the terrified horse on the path. What's the matter? Silver let out a howl. He was staring straight ahead, following his gaze. Tom thought he could make out something moving on the horizon. A silver line had appeared, stretching as far as he could see in both directions. Sunlight glinted on it, and then Tom could see watery swells and peaks, which quickly grew bigger and bigger. Tom, Eleanor's voice sounded as if she could hardly speak for fear. It's a tidal wave!